What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome back to Top Bins, the show bringing you all the action from the Premier League and SerieA. I'm your host, Matt, joined by my co-host, Dom. Dom, you are a year older, a year wiser, I think, since the last time we spoke. I looked this up before the show because I wanted to, everyone has like a birthday twin and stuff like that. Dom, would you like to know which soccer player? It's a pretty decent one. Which soccer player you have a shared birthday with?
A shared birthday?
Yeah. I will give you hints.
Can you give me a hint?
I will give you the clubs that this man has played for. He's played for Liverpool. He's played for Bayern Munich. He has played for Stoke City. He has played for FC Basel. This is all at the top of my head. And he is currently playing, I believe, still for Chicago Fire.
For Chicago Fire. So this is a veteran, obviously. He's a journeyman. He's been to a lot of clubs.
I could give you one final hint, and if you don't get it off this one, we'll see. But this man is also known for having extremely well-built legs. Really an entirely well-built body.
What the heck?
Nicknamed the Power Cube. Xherdan Shaqiri, Dom.
I forgot that he plays in the MLS now, to be honest with you.
I don't know if he's still with Chicago, actually. I didn't didn't fact check. I was just going off the top of my head.
You know what? You said FC Basel and Liverpool. I should have realized that. But
really, it's him and Salah.
So that's, I was like, no, it's not him. And then I completely overlooked it.
Bayern is so happy birthday to you and Xherdan Shaqiri.
Oh, nice.
Two kings.
It's kind of weird because although I am 29, I'm in my 30th year on this earth, if you think about it. So it's like,
this is your age 30 season.
Yeah, great. Love it.
Hey, man, everything I hear about the 30s is great.
You always yell at me when I say that.
Dom's lovely fiance chiming in. Hey, nothing wrong with
she's not
30
wrong.
because we all make it there. Most of us, at least.
Yeah, you're right.
Some of us have been in our 30th year for a while now.
See, you can't get that kind of content anywhere else, man.
You really can't. You really can't. Let's start in England this week. We'll start with Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. Not my favorite game. Say that much. Didn't have a great time, and just kind of continues what has been a really disappointing start to the season for Liverpool. I think one of the few things to, I guess, take away as a positive is that Liverpool stuck with their change in formation, sticking with the 4-2-3-1. I do think that helped offensively in this game a little bit. Definitely had some better moments than we've seen, but still defensively, this team has just struggled a lot, and Arsenal have obviously been a pretty good attacking team so far this season. But one thing I noticed too is like strikers a lot were getting pushed to drop really deep for Liverpool. If you look at like the heat maps for this game, there's like a big empty circle where normally a Liverpool player might be occupying that space or pressing the back line, and it just wasn't there as much. I think for Arsenal too, this is a continuation of just a lot of the good performances that we've seen from them to start this season, and I think if you want to you can take this to the extreme and say that this means Arsenal are going to win the league, which if that's what you want to make of it, fine. That's cool. I think that might still be a little extended, but it is a big win because this has typically been a fixture that has given Arsenal trouble over the last few seasons. And I mean, it's given a lot of teams trouble. That's not exclusive to them, but the few times that Liverpool have dropped points has typically been like away to the Emirates. It has not been a hospital place for them, even at their best. So Arsenal have kind of that in their back pockets. They have definitely the energy in the stadium is back. You can feel that. It was certainly, one of the best atmospheres I can remember watching for a Liverpool Arsenal game away in a few years. And yeah, I just think, not without controversy, of course, because there's controversy about everything, but the first goal for Arsenal, due to a like weird loophole, could not be reviewed because of the Hawkeye technology, which also famously allowed Aston Villa to not get relegated in the the COVID year when the goal was scored, the ball went in the net, but they couldn't for whatever reason detect it, and that ended up being very much the difference between relegation that year. So not the first time, but not as like high profile, perhaps not as deep of meaning as that situation was, but not great that we're having these VAR issues yet again. But yeah, it's individual mistakes from Liverpool again defensively, which is the problem. The midfield, I can't say it enough, just desperately needs to be overhauled here.
Yeah, it's almost poetic with the game tied. Bukayo Saka steps up and slots home a penalty after all he's been through with the Euros and all that. So nice from Arsenal. I know that you were talking about Liverpool's struggle in a new formation, and I'm looking at like the heat maps of like dribbles and total shots. Like there's only 2 players on Liverpool that are really taking on players in the dribble, and like there's a lot more on Arsenal. The shots are spread out, the tackles are spread out, the aerials are being won by more players. So like Arsenal have shown themselves to be a strong team. I think this 4-2-3-1 will help for you guys though. It looks like the team fits it. It seems like growing pains,
I think it's having to find like square pegs for round holes or vice versa, where it's like this team is like constantly kind of have to just come up with new ideas rather than have like new players. So, really Nunez is the only like first team player that you're introducing into a team that really needed some, at least like 2 or 3 more, at least like more rotational players, maybe not out and out starters, but I mean, you're just seeing that. I think that's what this team is paying for, that they haven't refreshed the squad. You look at this starting 11 and, like 8 out of these players have been here now for regular starters for like 4 years. That's not common. Even when we were growing up, that wasn't a common thing, where you didn't have as much transfer spending and stuff. Like Liverpool have made some signings, but again, you just look at the rest of the league and the writing is on the wall. When you're being outspent by that rate, you can not spend money and still be competitive, and Liverpool have done that. They haven't spent a lot of money. They spent a decent amount in wages, of course, but this is where it goes wrong. I think, too, what I've seen this year, too, is that when Mo Salah was at his absolute best last season, like those first 3 months of the season, that was when Harvey Elliott and Alexander-Arnold, and then Elliott gets injured in that Leeds game, but when those 2 were playing and you had a lot of interplay between those 3. You haven't had that this year. Like Trent has not had like the offensive, influence that we're used to seeing from him. That does make up for some of his deficiencies on the defensive end, because he does have some deficiencies on the defensive end. But again, when he can pass the way that he can, when he can create the way he can, you live with that and you work around it. When that's not happening, I think that's been an issue this season. And yeah, I mean, injuries again. Joel Matip out. Trent Alexander-Arnold out for 2 weeks. Luis Diaz out until after the World Cup.
Jeez, man.
So great. It's just it's tough. It just is what it is. For Arsenal, though, again, stay top of the table. You look at a lot of like the underlying numbers, and they're still doing very well, outperforming a little bit. We'll see. If there's any regression to that, but it's another big test pass. I mean, they beat Spurs. This was a tough game. I think a team of like less character, than what this Arsenal team shows probably finds a way to lose this game, or it ends in a draw. I think Arsenal teams maybe in the last 2 years, a little bit more immaturity, it doesn't see this game out. And I think that's a big step forward for them. I think you have to say that. So if I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm really pleased with this result. I think this is like the culmination of a lot of good work by Arteta and by the club and by the players. I think this is like, I don't want to call it a statement win. I don't know that that's like fair. I think if anything, more like the Spurs game might be like more like a statement win, but it's like a good monkey to get off your back, I think would be the way that I would frame it, or at least the way I would think about it.
And this is all being done amidst those comments made by Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang too about Mikel Arteta and how he can't handle big personalities and all this other stuff. And he seems to be doing just fine this season.
I will say it's always easier to handle the big personalities when you're winning. You know, like ask Brendan Rodgers. I think, you know, when the win is blowing comfortably at your back, it's very easy to be, you know, a
really
great
aside
guy.
from like one player though, two players in their starting lineup, it's the same team as last year.
Yeah, definitely some like consistency from last season, but I think too, like they are. I don't mean this to mean them, especially after like they win a game like this, they're top of the table. I would not say they have like a star on this team. You know, they certainly have players that probably by the end of the season will think about that way. But even like Saka, Odegaard, Saliba, you know, kind of like the big players that you have here, Jesus, like they are very good Premier League players, but they are not on like, you know, some of the other top players that we have.
They still haven't proven their name like that yet.
Right. And, you know, again, that probably changes after the end of this season. You know, we think about them. I always think of like who's going in the graphic. Maybe that's a lame way to think about it, but who's going in like the graphic, and it's like Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, now Erling Haaland, Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, do they really have someone in that atmosphere right now? I'm not totally sure. But again, after this year, that probably changes.
I think that Odegaard could take that step.
Yeah, I think
Gabriel Jesus.
Any one
has a
of
crazy
Odegaard,
season.
Jesus, and Saka are those guys for sure. But yeah, good win by them. Let's move on to Bournemouth 2, Leicester City 1. Bournemouth, since changing managers, have had a good stretch of 5 games now. And I think the reason I really want to talk about this game is because it's sort of like branching paths here, where Bournemouth have made the decision to move on from their manager, and it has worked out for them. And Leicester are continuing to stick with Brendan Rodgers, and it is not working out for them. They beat Nottingham Forest 4-0 last week. That was a good result, but you know, you're seeing again just this team, like individual errors being punished, and sometimes not being punished, getting away with it. But defensively, this team's still not good enough. And it feels like they've just been circling the drain this entire season with Brendan Rodgers, and this game summed up that feeling for me. It's like, yeah, like it sucks. It sucks when you're moving on from a manager. It sucks because in a way you kind of have to admit that you were wrong in a sense, or that you maybe didn't make the smartest move in keeping this guy along. But Bournemouth are showing, you know, 5 games, you know, of good results now, and have gotten themselves out of the relegation zone. And, you know, I think they were pretty much a consensus pick no matter where you look to get relegated this year. And they still might, of course, but, you know, these are the types of, you know, good like runs in form that keep you up in the Premier League. And I think it's a good case study in that, you know what, sometimes getting a new manager in helps. And I think Leicester could take some note from that, just in my opinion.
They definitely could. I definitely agree with you with that. Hey, your boy Dominic Solanke getting an assist in this game.
Well, I'll tell you who my real boy is.
Setting up the winning goal.
I'll tell you who the real boy is. It's Patson Daka, who I have been banging the table to get more minutes for over the last 2 seasons. Finally starting to get a little bit this year. Here's the DakaGanda that I got going on here. Goals per 90. 0.81. That's not a bad number. Now, he hasn't played a lot this year. Cards on the table. He's only played 334 minutes. He's only started 3 games. Okay? So, you know what? I'm going to just, again, cards on the table. I'm not hiding anything. However, you would say Gabriel Jesus has had a good season so far, right, Dom? I think that's fair.
It's fair.
He's the number 9 for the team top of the table. Goals per 90. 0.58. Oh, that's interesting. Harry Kane. Celebrated striker. I mean, just one of the best of all time. And, you know, just a guy we all love. Well, not we all. Some of us love. Great goal scorer. 0.90 goals per 90. Huh. Just a little better than Patson Daka so far this season. What about Karim Benzema? Consensus Ballon d'Or winner. Surely he must be performing very well. And surely if someone is performing better than him at goals per 90, I mean, yeah, maybe that's something you want to think about. Karim Benzema, 0.60 goals per 90. Patson Daka, 0.81. I don't know. I don't know.
What's Robert Lewandowski?
I'm glad you asked, Dom, because he's also on my list. I compare. If you can. Okay, I will tell you Lewandowski, and then I want you to guess who the other striker I compared him to. Robert Lewandowski's at 1.29 goals per 90. So yeah, a little better. Who knew? Robert Lewandowski. I don't know if you heard of this Lewandowski guy. He's pretty good. He's a pretty good goal scorer. I don't know if you heard of him. All right, who's the other guy I compared him to? It's kind of obvious because he's like the litmus test for like great goal scoring. Almost an unfair person to compare anyone else to from this season.
From this season?
It is right in front of you.
I'm doing bad at these today, man.
You can do this. I totally believe in you. It's right in front of you. Who has been the goal scoring machine this year?
Oh, Erling Haaland.
Yeah, there you go. Erling Haaland, 1.8 goals per 90, which is just so stupid.
Sick. Wait,
yeah.
So, do you think that his numbers are inflated though, Patson Daka? Just because you're saying that you've been wanting him to play more minutes.
The point of that exercise,
because he's not playing too many minutes.
The point of that exercise was not to say Patson Daka is better than Benzema or Jesus and almost as good as Harry Kane. Which I mean, if some people are saying that, then that's what no. Because Patson Daka is in some ways still a limited player. He's not perfect. I'm not gonna say that. But this is a guy. He's only 24 still. Like on the younger side, like still has like room to grow. He's a year younger than Jesus, right? Like he has shown in the past like an ability to be like a good, effective goal scorer. He's very efficient too. He only has 7 shots on target, 3 goals from that. Like those are good numbers. I have wanted him to get more time for 2 years now at Leicester. And I think, again, it's a small sample size. I'm not trying to make a team like, look how, I'm not trying to cherry pick here, but I'm just saying, I think that this is a guy that can honestly, like, you give him like Jamie Vardy's like true role here, and I think you kind of have to just like bite the bullet a little bit and start like developing guys like this, because you may not, if you don't, maybe you don't get Daka like next season, because maybe if you get relegated, like I just think you have to trust this guy and you have to start putting some faith in him. He has shown a good goal scoring threat every time I've seen him play. I think if you get him just like consistent time, I really think this is a guy that you can. I think the only thing he doesn't do well is build up play, but Jamie Vardy's not like the most skilled build up play guy. And that's why you have like good midfield surrounding him. That's why you have good wingers surrounding him, in theory, at least at Leicester. So, Patson Daka, just get the guy more minutes, please, just to shut me up at least, so we don't have to play that game anymore.
That was absolutely ridiculous from you. I couldn't believe what I was listening to.
Well, hey man,
he said this name. Yeah, what about Lewandowski? Oh, 1.2. All right.
we will get to Mr. Bobbert later in the show. We will talk about the TikTok star formerly known as Barcelona striker. Let's move to Italy first, though. Udinese 2, Atalanta 2. Probably the game of the weekend, even coming into it, and it delivered fully. Adama Lukman getting the weirdest yellow card I think I've ever seen in my life for doing his like trademark celebration where he does like the goggles over his eyes because his last name is Lookman. I don't know. Beats the hell out of me. Udinese come from 2-0 down to get a point at least to stay near the top of the table in SerieA. Atalanta, another good showing offensively too. Luis Muriel's pass to Lookman for their first goal is like disgusting. I meant to clip it and share it with the good people because I don't know how many people get the chance to see it, but just unreal. They like pause right now and go like take a look at it because it's
stupid.
It's Tony Kroos-esque. It is Kevin De Bruyne-esque. Like it's just he breaks so many lines with that pass and puts it on a beautiful platter for Lookman to tuck home. I don't know what more is the story here. I think Udinese and the fact that they've shown this resilience a lot this season, despite like the some bad circumstances, to fight back and kind of reclaim some points. We've seen them turn 0 points into 3 a few times this season. We've especially seen them in like extra time this year. I don't know what to make for them because part of me wants to call them fluky. Part of me also sees them continually like doing this stuff, and they scored 2 goals against Atalanta, which by the way, Atalanta coming in this game had only conceded 3 goals all season so far, which you heard me correctly, Atalanta, a team that we have not typically associated with like stringent defense. Udinese, I think, have to be taken, and I think you've been right on this, in that they have to be taken a little more seriously this year. Again, we'll see if they fade out, but they've performed really strong, and this was a great game. I loved it. These two teams, I think it's like 31 goals in their last 5 coming into this game. Between it has typically been a high scoring affair. It didn't disappoint in terms of drama.
I'm going to say it again, right? Udinese is showing time and time again why they should be taken seriously. They've got guys that are very consistent players for the most part. Beto and Delafeu up top, right? Isaac Success off the bench. Roberto Pereira. They've got veteran SerieA players. They've got a nice mix of role players, and they just play a good game. They have good game plans when they come in, and they know how to chip away at teams. And they're not doing it in an ugly way. They're very fun to watch. And there's a reason why they're one of the top 4 teams in the league. Atalanta, it's always a strong showing. Luis Muriel is that guy for them. I've been a fan of his for a long time. And getting it done against his former club too. It's probably an emotional game. Gets a goal and an assist. So these are 2 of the strongest teams in Serie A. Definitely just didn't disappoint.
Yeah, just a great game all the way around. Atalanta and Udinese both stay in the top 4 after this result. Dom, without looking at the table, which 2 teams do you think are tied? I kind of gave it away already with Atalanta, I guess. So who's the other team with the, at least by goals allowed, best defense so far this season in Serie A?
Top, mid, or low table?
They're in the top 4 as well with Atalanta. So really, I've made it.
Lazio?
For Lazio, only 5 goals conceded. Lazio, in fact, were the first team, I think, since the 50s, Fiorentina in the 50s, to win 3 straight Serie A games 4-0. They beat Fiorentina 4-0 on Monday night. They've looked really good.
Yeah.
I'll just say that if they can make it into a consistent thing, I don't know. Yeah, Lazio, they're a little scary.
That consistency's starting to show up, huh?
Weird. You give Maurizio Sarri some time with your team, and maybe he wouldn't lose to Maccabi Haifa in the Champions League or whatever. Salernitana 2, Hellas Verona 1. I wanted to include this because I know how much you love Salernitana. I know how much you're always talking about how good they are. That they're really the best team in Serie A. Just people aren't onto that wave yet. Really, it was just a late game winner by Dia. Just like popped into the side net. Your boy Christoph Piatek getting the scoring started in this one. This was a really fun game. Obviously both teams so far this year, Salernitana have, I think, impressed a bit. Hellas Verona, I would say, have flattered to deceive a lot. Have not been certainly not close to where they were last season, where they were sort of top half of the table. In fact, this game put them in the relegation zone. I really liked what I've seen from Salernitana this season. I have to admit, maybe I was wrong about them coming into the year. Davide Nicola came in, saved them from relegation pretty unexpectedly. They were a long shot to do it, and they've come into the season, I think, have just put together like better performances. Already this season, I could see them being more comfortable going into April and May than they were last season. And it was a great winner. I loved the fans' reaction. Just like you could see what it meant to get those 3 points. Great crowd surge and people going crazy. There's some red cards handed out at the end of the game, which you always love to see. I always love when they're walking off and they're arguing or protesting right at the end of the game, and people get sent off, and it's like, congrats, you lost some money, and you either got to sit in the stands next week if you're a manager, or you got to sit in the top stands if you're a player now. Congrats, good job, Bozo. But shout out to Salernitana for a big win. Really liked what I've seen from them this season, and I sometimes you got to tip your cap and say, maybe I was wrong.
They seem like a like a club that's taking small steps each season just to make sure that, they build some consistency to stay in the league year in and year out. And they seem like they have the right pieces to do it. They've got some decent young talent, some good role players. And my boy, I mean, they brought in their own Norwegian talent, Eric Botheim. They got Junior Sambio on the team. I think that Davide Nicola is doing the right thing with them. And now instead of having to fight to stay out of the relegation zone, now they want to, make sure they stay in it comfortably. If that means they're only a few, places above it, so be it. But they've kept the type of consistency to make sure that they stay in SerieA again, and then they can build on that.
Yeah. Elsewhere in SerieA, I will give you 20 seconds to wax lyrical about Brahim Diaz's goal against Juventus. It's not often I text you about certain goals and stuff. I had to send you a text when I watched that goal because it was just unreal
Stupid.
individual brilliance. Here's your 20 seconds. Say whatever you'd like.
Oh man, he's definitely shown a little bit of improvement in his game. I'll give you that much. I wouldn't be surprised if they try him out at right wing because of this. To be honest with you, absolutely incredible. I don't know how the hell it went in the net because he shot it right at the keeper's hands, but we take him, right?
He's got clay hands, and I'm talking after the kill.
Chesney, that was scary.
Tough scenes there. It was a great goal. One of the, again, if you look at like compilations of best goals of the season, this will be in there. Like just a great individual run by Brahim, and big win for Milan. Because
I'd honestly like him to try right wing. I think that could be an option for them. Build some consistency off it.
Yeah. Napoli won again this week, dispatching Cremonese. Here's how the top of the table looks in SerieA right now. Still very tight. I mean, it's hard to separate these teams. You're still in the mode here where just one sort of screwy weekend, really changes the complexion of the top of the table. But Napoli top with 23 points. They have some breathing room thanks to Atalanta's draw, who have 21 points sitting in second. Lazio in third with 20, Udinese in fourth with 20, Milan in fifth with 20. It's just goal differential separating those clubs there. Roma in sixth with 19. They had a nice win against Lecce over the weekend, but Paulo Dybala injured himself while taking the penalty. It's a tough time of year to get injured too because we're a month away from the World Cup. Players really don't want to be missing out on that. And Argentina, I mean, this is the last ride. Leo Messi said this is his last World Cup for sure. So Dybala is certainly going to want to be playing a part in that. But Inter sitting in seventh with 15 points and your relegation zone. Hellas Verona, Cremonese, Sampdoria. Sampdoria and Cremonese, still not a win. Not a win to their name to this point in the season. It's getting scary. It's scary.
They're digging a big, deep hole for them very fast. Stanley Yelnat style, just like
shovel length is deep.
Jeez, man, like you see the top 5-6 teams kind of pulling away from the rest of the pack. Only 4 points separate sixth and first, and then you're looking at this the Hellas Verona only has 5 points, but if it's bad down there, man. No wins. Not even more
thinking
draws.
Of the Megamind meme of
no
wins.
Crazy, dude. 6 losses each. Not even getting draws out of a couple of them. It's just, oh man.
You hate to see it.
Ring the alarms, I guess. Jesus.
Yeah, if this was a fire, this is a 7 alarm fire. I think.
It's actually funny because I'm on the Who Scored page for SerieA, and the video that was playing at the bottom. You know how they play those videos? It was about Sampdoria. FBI agents watching us, Matt.
Yeah, they hear every word. I'm getting one. funnily enough, about Inter Barcelona in 2010 when Mourinho went to the Camp Nou and silenced the crowd. Let's just start right there, because it's not often you get a classic in the Champions League in the group stages, because it just kind of, I don't want to say it means less, but the stakes are not quite as high. The stakes were very high today. In fact, I think that's why it felt so tense, because if Barcelona had lost today, they would have been eliminated from the Champions League round of 16, which not only is a sporting loss, right? Not advancing. That's what you want to do, but also financially, Barcelona really needs to be in the Champions League. Really needs to be advancing. They're really, I think, counting on that income. They've made their road much harder now with a 3-3 draw against Inter. This was crazy, especially the last 10 minutes had a lot of drama. Gerson scores, goes 3-2 up. He starts to celebrate and run towards the opposite way, and then sees that pretty much the entire Inter bench is cleared out and has run onto the pitch to celebrate, and they're all dancing. The coaches are turning towards the crowd and giving them the hands, and it truly felt in that moment that they had just sunk Barcelona to the Europa League. So I can't really blame them too much for celebrating that way, but Robert Lewandowski finds a goal to at least breathe some life into Barcelona's Champions League hopes. They now have to pray that Pilsen can get some sort of result against Inter, but yet Barcelona will essentially need to be perfect the rest of the way in order to advance. And it's all been taken out of their hands. Talk about for Inzaghi, what a boost this is. I think in terms of just confidence, going there, and obviously it wasn't a win, but it's a big result. And it's one that really takes them a step into getting, into the knockout stages. I think when he saw this group, I think we even talked about it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Inter to get out of this. They've gotten really unlucky with the draw yet again. But their chances have improved for sure.
It seems odd to me, given, Inter's, success in the Champions League and they've had a little bit of misfortune in the league so far, out of a European spot, but barely, like I said earlier, it's a close in the table, but it's a classic, man. It's a classic. Does it seem like Inter is taking the Champions League more serious than the league?
I wouldn't say that necessarily. I just think that they've just had stronger performances. I think they've played well in the league. That's what's been bizarre about Inter for me this season. I haven't actually thought they've been bad all that much. They just haven't had they also haven't been healthy, in some ways. They're still without Lukaku, which whatever. That's its own separate thing. But I think Inzaghi's been a little bizarre with his substitutions. We know all about his yellow card stuff. That's very obvious. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is with Inter. It's typically historically been the opposite, where in Europe they've struggled, whereas in the league they've been more dominant. But they've always, again, I just think been a team that gets a little unlucky with the draws, and has always been in the hard group. And then last year they get out of the group and they get Liverpool in the round of 16. So yeah, I just think they've been a little unlucky this season. I really expect them to rebound a little bit as the year goes on. And I can't forget, they were really pushing for the title last season, and just had a disastrous moment from a backup keeper, and they win SerieA last season. I really think shouldn't quite push that away from our view of them. But yeah, craziness in Group C definitely introduces a little bit of intrigue for Barcelona over the next few weeks, and how that gets dealt with. Speaking of intrigue and watching on with horror, Juventus lost to Maccabi Haifa.
This is what I was hoping for.
This is what we prayed for. This is what we spend our time wishing would happen.
I pray for times like this.
So immediately after the game, there's a statement that Allegri is the manager and whatever. La Repubblica published a story about a bunch of players that are just completely out on Allegri and want to see him gone. That he only has 3 guys that are still with him, like Szczesny and Quadrado being 2 of those players that are still backing him and support him, but a lot of the players seeming to not be into the idea anymore. Even Paul Pogba, who's like not playing, is like, I'm actually not selling this guy anymore. I don't know how much longer it lasts. It's felt like really for a large part of the season that Allegri should be gone. It's an embarrassing result, and it's a disastrous one because now you still have Benfica and PSG to play to try and get out of this group. They're another team. It's not quite as serious as Barcelona's like financial situation, but part of the reason that they can't fire Allegri, it seems, at least they say, is for financial reasons because they can't necessarily afford to pay out, a manager's clause and their contract. So by missing out on that extra Champions League revenue, that could be tough. So it's an interesting spot for Juventus. Even in the last few years when they obviously haven't been as good and they haven't been as dominant, they've not been like this. They've still like found a way to get the results to kind of like drag themselves through. I've called them like a zombie team in a way. Like they still find a way to like march on and at least like get somewhere. It's like, yeah, like they're obviously not challenging for the title, but they're still like a top 4 team. They're still making at least like the Champions League knockouts. Like I think this could be a really disastrous year for them. And I think they have to make some big changes probably this season and this off season because I don't know how much longer you continue with this. This it's stagnant now, I would say.
They're an extremely rich mid-table SerieA team. That's what they are right now. And not even really extremely rich. I don't know. Juventus is just falling back. Imagine it gets so bad, Allegri's out and Nedved has to step down and like coach the team because he can't hire anybody.
Well, apparently, I believe I've read Nedved is like not a fan of Allegri. Like Nedved is like pushing to move on. I think Nedved kind of sees the writing on the walls here. In that. 'Cause Nedved too, I think it's important to remember Nedved, obviously a very fantastic player in his own right. I always think there's a difference between guys, especially like recent players, when they're in these like sporting roles and guys that are more just on the business side. I mean, I totally understand Juventus' opinion that financially it's hard for them to fire this guy and all this. But I also totally see Nedved's opinion that like he knows, like he's been in these situations.
That's true.
No one's playing for this guy anymore. And it's just not going to get any better. You're going to have to fire him at some point anyway. Was it going to last the other 4 years of his contract? No. You get like, and it is better. It is just truly better. Like we talked about with Bournemouth and Leicester. Sometimes it is better to just move on and prune the tree and let it grow in a different way and hopefully in a better way too. And I think they're overdue for that. I think they're overdue to clip these branches here because I just think Allegri, I don't know what happens to him now either. I'm surprised at this. He obviously was not known for being like totally progressive in his managerial ideas, but this has been a regression from him. I mean, truly, like really needs to alter his identity because I don't know what has happened to him the last few seasons, but it has not been the Allegri that we grew accustomed to.
I'm all for Nedved becoming like Ralph Ragnick and take on a sporting director / managerial role. That'd be actually kind of cool to see.
Maybe. I think he just seems like a Juventus lifer, and he has like a nice job, and he'll never really have to worry too much about job security. Ralph Ragnick, shout out to him, ultimate bag chaser. Remember when he was like the godfather of geek and pressing? Remember when we pretended that Ralph Ragnick? Remember when like everyone pretended like Ralph Ragnick was a good manager and was going to be better than Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola? Remember when everyone pretended that? Okay, I still do.
Some genius, right?
Club Brugge qualify. We highlighted them last week. Qualify for the round of 16.
Serious team.
Simo Mignolet, 14 saves. What a legend. A true hero of my heart. I will love Simo Mignolet for the rest of my life. Love that guy to pieces. And Mo Salah Dom had the fastest Champions League hat trick ever today against Rangers. 6 minutes and 12 seconds is all it took. And in fact, the ball was in play for, I think, only like 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Which is just absurd. Like, that would be hard to do on like a five-a-side kind of field, where it's just... Liverpool have been such a journey to watch this season, because they've had these explosions a few times. They've had these moments where they look really good. This team that has scored 7 and 9 goals in separate games this season finds themselves near the bottom of the table. They're doing okay in the Champions League now, but have been just so far off what we expected. Very just hot and cold. I hope that this is a harbinger of things to come, because they play Manchester City at the weekend. So it'd be great. It'd be really great if we get Mo Salah from like last October. If we could get that guy back, I would be thrilled with that. But yeah. So shout out to Mo Salah, fastest Champions League hat trick ever. And poor Rangers.
Yeah.
I don't know where they go from here. Rangers have conceded 16 goals in the group stage so far through 4 games. Napoli have scored 17. They beat Ajax again. They have qualified for the round of 16 as well, and Liverpool took a big step with their win today. Some positive results over the next 2 will make sure that they are also into the next round. So next week we'll obviously have like a lot more teams that have been sorted out in terms of like who's actually being qualified, right? I'm sorry, the week after. There's a 1 week break from the Champions League action, and then we'll wrap up. But we'll start to know who's going through. We can start to theorize, and then we'll also be like right on the doorstep of the World Cup, which is got to start putting together that World Cup preview. Start thinking about that.
It's weird. It's weird to think about, like, you were talking about Dybala's injury earlier, and like that the type of injury if at all, any type of injury he gets that's not serious, quote unquote, like at this point in the season, could actually be a big deal given that the World Cup is in like 2 months. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be like, okay, he's out through Christmas, he'll come back in the new year, we're chilling. Or like, oh, now he's missing the World Cup. It's going to affect that quite a bit. I'm interested to see, how that kind of stuff unfolds over the next month. But yeah, man. My bad. I lost my train of thought. I'm out of it tonight, man.
That's what happens when you turn 29. Yeah,
you get another year older, another gigabyte of your memory lost.
Yeah, you gotta download more RAM from online. I think I saw a site somewhere where you can do that.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
This weekend, if you're looking for stuff to watch, you got Liverpool, Manchester City. Doesn't have quite the same shine that maybe the last few seasons have had, where this has been, a title decider, so to speak, even early in the year. But it's a great game. I'm sure will still be entertaining. Not looking forward to watching my team play Erling Haaland. It's like a game of roulette, but there are 5 bullets instead of 1. You're sort of just really hoping that you get extremely lucky, and the odds are very much against you. Leeds versus Arsenal Sunday morning should be a good one as well in England. Let's kick over to SerieA. What good games have we got in SerieA? We've been very blessed so far this season. I feel like every week we've gotten a pretty decent one. We've got Atalanta Sassuolo, not bad. Feels like the game of the weekend, I would say. Dom Hellas Verona versus Milan. I'm sure you'll be really locked in for that one. And then Lazio Udinese, probably game of the week actually there. I don't know how I skimmed over that one. Lazio Udinese Sunday morning. That'd be my recommended must watch. Puts together 2 teams that have had a really strong start to the season, and I think we fairly or unfairly have question marks about both those teams in some ways. So we'll potentially get some answers there.
You got the Turin derby as well, Torino-Juventus, and that's actually a pretty well-matched team or a well-matched game. So
yeah, very true.
If you're looking for something that could cause some storylines to happen in the league, yeah, definitely watch that.
I think Torino would have the chance if they win that for leapfrogging Juventus, and I think that's just like obviously not been something that has happened in recent history, but I remember that being like a factoid. I will do my research and come back with that next week.
Juventus is the smaller of the 2 Turin clubs,
right? Dom, anything to plug or say before we get out of here?
Twitch, twitch.tv/a-hairy8. Follow me on Twitter. You see that on YouTube below. If you're listening, it's at Washed Lifestyle. Yeah. Forza Milan.
You love to see it. You love to hear it. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about those games that we mentioned and much more. I don't know. Question mark. We'll talk to you next time. Hope you have a great day.